All right, first preseason game. 3 quick things before we start. Number 1, I'm sure a lot of you know the All-22 is temporarily unavailable on Game Pass, so we got to work with the broadcast footage. We're going to be talking a lot about the O-line and D-line, but it's usually difficult, if not impossible, to tell what's going on in the secondary. So even though I've watched this game about 5 times, I have pretty much no clue how our safeties played. And then number 2, I just launched my Patreon, so if you're interested in more Titans content and you want to support the channel, definitely consider subscribing over there. So first play here is outside zone, and Christian DeLauro is someone you might not know. I hadn't heard of him until I watched this game, but he started at left tackle and actually played pretty well, especially in run blocking. He had a 82.8 PFF grade, which was the second highest offensive PFF grade for Titans players. He has really good length and he can do a lot of things on the move, which is perfect for Tennessee's blocking scheme. And at 26 years old, he's someone that I could definitely see making the team. He does a good job here of giving the stiff arm and then getting to the second level and driving the defender backwards. Luke Stalker does a good job of controlling the edge rusher as he gets to the second level. And Blassingame's coming to block this guy from the backfield, so Stalker needs to stall him a bit, but Blassingame needs to hit the inside shoulder and drive 92 outside, but he hits the outside shoulder and 92 is able to make the stop. Dylan Radins played 50 snaps, which was the second most by Tennessee offensive players. He played 13 at right guard and 37 at right tackle. So he got some work at different spots. Overall, I thought he had a pretty solid game, which was encouraging since there were some negative reports early in camp. Again, the Titans are running outside zone. Radins gives the stiff arm here and shows off his length, and then he gets to the second level under control and secures the block. Pretty much everyone showed at least some positives, but Daniel Munyer was pretty bad across the board. He just has no real play strength, and he was consistently getting pushed backwards, and given his problems with snapping the ball in camp, I would be surprised if he makes the team. And then Stalker does a pretty bad job blocking on the edge, which ultimately is what blows this play up. Here's another good rep by Christian DeLauro. He's got that explosive first step, he meets the defender with a low pad level, and he drives him up and out of the play. DeLauro does struggle in pass protection, and I actually looked up a scouting report of him from the draft, and it said that he'll open up completely perpendicular against wide rush angles, which is exactly what happens here. I'm not sure why he's helping the guard out on this play, but it causes him to lose the edge early, and he does a bad job of maintaining balance in his recovery. Radin's technique is really good here, and pass protection against power rushers was the main thing I thought he'd struggle with early, but he actually showed a pretty good anchor in this game. And then this is just a really smooth release and route in general by Chester Rogers. He gives a little skip step to the outside and then gets upfield while establishing inside leverage. I'd love to see what his route break looked like, but he had a good bit of separation when he caught the ball, so I assume it was pretty good. We've got a good run block by Radins here. His assignment is to secure the double team and then block the linebacker, but the Titans are running misdirection, so this linebacker is going to be shooting his gap early because he thinks the run is coming his way, and Radins just has great reaction time and body control to pick up that block. DeLauro does a good job here. He gets a lot of depth in his pass set and he keeps good balance and leverage throughout the play. And then Radins is the one who gives up this sack, but it looks like he kind of lost track of where he was and where the quarterback was, but the beginning of the rep was pretty good. Tennessee's defensive line was phenomenal pretty much across the board, and the MVP of this game in my opinion was Teair Tart. A lot of people this offseason have been talking about Tart as a Daquan Jones replacement at nose tackle, and I never really thought he had the right skill set to play nose. I thought of him as more of a 3-tech, but he showed really good discipline and anchor against Atlanta, which are 2 things that he struggled with last season and 2 things that are really important at nose tackle. So he has a really explosive first step and great pad level. If we look at everybody on the line of scrimmage, Tart is lower than anyone except this guard who's literally falling down. And that's how you make up for not having great size by defensive lineman standards. If you get off the ball really fast and you're lower than anyone, you're going to be able to hold your ground or get into the backfield depending on what you're trying to do. And it's one thing to just get low and barrel into someone, but if you're not under control, a lineman can use that leverage against you and put you on the ground. Tart does a really good job of using his hands to fight off the block while keeping his feet moving and balanced. It's still kind of amazing to me as I'm recording this that at this point Tart is almost parallel to the ground and he's getting double teamed, and at the end of the play he's still right at the line of scrimmage on top of the football. Here's John Simon getting flattened by a tight end. And again, great job by Tart and Murchison of getting lower than the guys who are trying to block them. They're both getting double teamed, but their pad level and balance are so good that they get pushed back maybe a yard. And then Amani Hooker does a good job cleaning up the play. 3rd and 9 here, and the Titans are in their signature 7 yards of cushion defense. Again, it's hard to tell what happens at the route break, but this is a bad rep by Fulton regardless. Here's a pretty nice run block by Chester Rogers, and then you can also see how good Christian DeLauro is on the move. Ideally, he could have blocked 29 here, but Cam Batson loses his block, and it's too late for DeLauro to react. Even though it's preseason, Dean Pease was calling up some pretty exotic blitzes. Right here, Atlanta's in cover 1, and they're running a razor stunt into a delayed twin stunt through the A-gap. So a razor stunt is when the Mike lines up over the A-gap, but he twists with the 3-tech and they switch gap responsibility. And then a twin stunt is just any stunt that results in 2 players blitzing the same gap. So the end result is a double A-gap blitz. But what's so creative about this blitz design is that by delaying the twin stunt, Atlanta uses the defensive tackle as a clear out blitzer because he's going to have no problem taking out the running back who's in blitz pickup, and then you have the faster linebacker coming in afterwards through a completely unblocked gap. The Titans are in fan protection and Jeremy McNichols takes the mic, but Atlanta's overloading to the left, and so even though you have 6 blockers and 6 blitzers, you end up with a free rusher and a blocker with no responsibility. I ultimately put this on Woodside because he needs to have the O-line full slide to the left, so your blocks would look like this. And he also needs to recognize the blitz and get the ball out quickly to Rodgers on this drag route. And blitz recognition and just sort of general pocket awareness is something that Logan Woodside kind of struggled with in this game. Teair Tart does a nice job of applying pressure from the backside here, and John Simon needs to keep contained. He can't resist what looks like an easy path to the quarterback, but it lets McCarron break out of the pocket and extend the play. This is another great play by Tart. Atlanta's running a slip screen, so the offensive line is fine with the D-line getting into the backfield because they're just leaking out to block for the running back, but Tart recognizes the screen and shuts it down. On this play, Daniel Munyer gets pancaked. Radens puts a really nice block on the edge rusher, and Blossingame has a good lead block, and this is just bad vision by McNichols because he's got a big gain if he takes it off tackle to the right, but he cuts back into unblocked defenders and gets no gain at all. Teair Tart keeps making plays. Right here, he angles his body to evade the reach block and basically occupies the center and the fullback, and then David Long and Monty Rice do a good job filling the cutback lanes, with Long getting into the backfield and Rice stacking the tight end. Referencing back to the Rashaan Evans video, here's Monty Rice doing exactly what Evans struggles to do, which is biting on the play action but then recovering quickly back into his coverage assignment. And then one play later, we've got play action again, and I've watched this play like 50 times and I still can't figure out what Monty Rice read that told him it was a pass. At this point, Monty Rice has already started to turn and get back into Tampa 2. I don't know what he saw here to tip him off. If you can figure it out, please comment. But yeah, it's like I've been saying, Monty Rice is a really smart and really instinctive linebacker. And then it looks like one of our safeties screwed up, but I guess we'll never know who it was. And then here's one of the things I'm really interested in. I'm curious how Tennessee's going to use Rashad Weaver because I think he has a unique hybrid skill set. And one of his first snaps of the game, they've got him at 3-tech dropping into coverage, so that's something to monitor. This is PFF's positional charting for Weaver in this game, and you can see in 39 snaps, he pretty much lined up all over the field. In college, Rashad Weaver was like a grown man playing against middle schoolers, and the main question I had was whether or not his physical dominance would translate to the NFL. and at least in the preseason, he looked just as dominant, if not more so, than he did in college. He just has such incredible length and anchor, and I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen someone move him off of his spot. So when it comes to setting the edge in the run game, he's basically unmovable. This is David Long's interception, and Tennessee's in quarters coverage. Long is responsible for the hook curl, but it's 3rd and 18, so he's going to be playing way deeper than normal. He either bites on this underneath route or he fakes like he's covering it, but either way, McCarron thinks he's got this seam route coming open, and Long recovers and makes a really great play on the ball. I started to notice that Radens was taking really wide pass sets, which I think he's doing because his main concern is getting beat inside with power. So if you're not getting a lot of depth in your pass set, you could potentially be more vulnerable to getting beat around the edge. But Radens is great at always keeping his feet moving in pass protection. This is probably the best coverage rep of the game. Christian Fulton's footwork here as he transitions out of press coverage is pretty much flawless. When the receiver breaks on the route, Fulton jams the inside shoulder to prevent separation, and then he extends the arm to break the pass up. Before we get to Mason Kinsey, I gotta point out Dylan Radens, great pass protection, keeps his feet moving, love to see it. So the Titans are running sort of hybrid of Y-cross and mesh. You've got Mason Kinsey on this deep crosser over the middle, and then McMath on a shallow cross, which ideally would create a pick right here at what's called the mesh point. McMath runs a good route here, but the corners do a really good job of avoiding the pick. Looking at Kinsey's route, he's facing press man with a ton of inside leverage, and he's going to do a stretch release, which is a common inside release, and it's just a hard step outside to freeze the corner and then explode inside and use the trail leg to generate power so that you can shield with the outside arm. The coverage by number 27 is actually pretty good, but it's a perfectly placed throw and a great catch in traffic to convert on 4th down. This is what my final 53-man roster would be if I were the GM. It's not a prediction, it's just what I would do. And players in green, I think their stock is rising. Players in red, I think their stock's falling. And you can pause the video and comment where you agree and disagree if you want. The Tampa Bay breakdown should be out much faster than this one was, and I'm excited to see how this list changes after tonight. If you enjoy my videos, be sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Also consider subscribing on Patreon. It helps keep the channel going and you get access to a ton of extra content.